Welcome back. You're now watching the lifestyle segment of the weekend show brought to you by Holo Crunch, crunchy, yummy goodness. On today's program, we'll be discussing Nigeria's preparedness to combat coronavirus. As we all know, the coronavirus has officially come to the shores of Africa. The first case was found in Egypt just yesterday. The Minister of Health has set up an interministerial body to tackle this virus if it does end up on our shores. As we all know, the committee is also expected to put in place an action plan for joint response in the event that the virus does end up in Nigeria. The Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Osasu, made this known in Abuja while briefing the press on the high-level preparedness of the government. I would just like to use this moment to state that I traveled out of the country over the week and came back, and it doesn't seem to me that there's any high level of preparedness going on, because all they gave to us when we landed were forms to fill out, and they just stopped everyone who came down from the plane and said, oh, fill out these forms and give it back to us. No checks, no nothing, so I don't know what kind of high level preparedness the ministry has put in place. But joining us on today's program to discuss this, we have
with us in the studio Dr. Andy Yuan. He is the CEO of Eastern and Western Hospital, also a licensed doctor here in Nigeria. Welcome to the Weekend Show.
Thank you. Good morning.
It's also my pleasure to welcome Dr. Chukwuemeka. He is a consultant physician and infectious diseases specialist with the Gariki Hospital here in Abuja. Welcome to the show, Doctor.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigeria.
Dr. Chukwuemeka, let me start with you. I've just given you my first-hand experience of people coming into this country and the measures, or I should say lack thereof, the government has put in place at the airports. What do you think needs to be done? What are some immediate steps they need to take, especially in checkmating those who are coming into the country and going out?
Okay, well, first of all, the name is Chukwuemeka, not Chukwuma. Chukwuemeka, yeah, that's my name. Truth is, first of all, there are a lot of things that could have been done on the ground without your noticing, okay? I'm not here to defend the government. I'm not here to stand as, to play devil's advocate, but truth is, if it's not broken, okay, don't, overtly try to fix it. That's the truth. There are things you do, you can set up. While we're trying to be as cautious as possible, there are things you may try to do that may actually provoke a national, panic, that may cause some panic that is not yet necessary at this point. Okay, now the ultimate response comes from the WHO. And I'm aware that the Nigerian government, NCDC, federal government of Nigeria, is directly in contact with the emergency operations center of the WHO to, get information on what to do next in case this happens, in case that happens. Now, I know that the NCDC has set up, like you said, an emergency operations center from where they get information on what to do. Regarding what is obtainable at the ports, I may not be able to say much. I would have preferred someone directly from NCDC who would tell us directly what happens there. But the truth is, what we expect them to do is screen people using maybe a symptom checklist. Anybody on this flight has fever, anybody has cough, breathlessness, either before you traveled or as you got in. And I don't know where it was you went to, but like I said, you're trying to maximize the use of resources. We may not be able to spread ourselves across to be able to check everybody that came from every country as in as much detail as we should for certain countries. It's present in a lot of countries. Yes, many other countries have not reported it. Have not reported it. If you're coming from a country, for instance, that hasn't quite reported it, it may not make a lot of sense. Putting down all the measures to be able to say this is, to be able to screen people. But if you're coming from, let's say, China, where it all started and where more than 95%, probably 98% of the cases are at this moment, and nothing happened, no extra screening took place, then we may actually not have set up enough, I don't know, And then is there a system for follow-up? Because there are going to be people that are going to come in without symptoms. Probably people that are still incubating. Okay, because the incubation period could take as long as 2 weeks. So somebody may get infected and not have symptoms for another 2 weeks. Okay, so Egypt reported their case because they followed up patients that came in from certain parts of the world. They didn't say where it was, but when you come in from a certain part of the country of the world, there's an extended surveillance period. So they keep monitoring the people. The person was not identified because he was sick when he came. He actually had mild symptoms, but they followed them up. Okay, they followed them. That's a more important thing, and eventually discovered that he had developed some symptoms, were mild, but eventually were confirmed to be due to the virus. So what I'm trying to say is, I may not be able to say exactly what have been put in place, but I'm aware, on ground, what exists on ground, but I'm aware that a couple of things have been put in place, okay? And that we didn't quite see them. Like I said, being in touch with the WHO, okay? Setting up these emergency operation systems, being able to set up a lab that's able to identify the virus within Nigeria. So samples are taken and identified within Nigeria. That would take a very short while. So if, let's say, there's a suspect case, okay? Someone said the other day a case was suspected in a certain hospital. Some people that came in from China, yeah, developed symptoms that were suggestive, and immediately everybody was contacted. And I think it was handled with some speed and professionalism. Well, eventually turned out not to be, but that it was thought of that people were gotten involved, and that within 24 hours it had been checked and the person was found not to, to be negative for the virus, was quite impressive. Many people didn't hear. So we didn't cause a societal panic. There was a panic within society. There wasn't a lot of noise about it, and the job was done. I think that shows some degree of preparedness. At least there's a high index of suspicion as well. Okay, so which is quite essential too.
Let's bring Dr. Andy in. The World Health Organization has declared the coronavirus a public health emergency of international concern. Dr. Chukwuemeka has said, don't fix it if it isn't broken. Over the last couple of weeks, as this has happened, we've had some other people from the public say, why is this such a big concern? Where in Nigeria currently, we have the likes of Lassa fever, which is killing even more people than the coronavirus is recorded. So is this one of those medical hoax or emergencies that just come up every once in a while, and just so that there's a lot of funding to research and like, what's the reality of this and the possibility that it may affect countries like Nigeria?
Okay, so you are asking the possibilities to affect Nigeria. Is it high or
yes, and how
low?
much of a threat is this coronavirus really?
I think the possibility to affect Nigeria at the same level of China is almost not possible. But it's still possible some cases may enter Nigeria. Now the world is connected everywhere. There's nowhere can be isolated. We are internationally connected. So, but I think there's no need to be worried too much, to be panic. Yeah, Nigeria government has made some good preparation. I have experienced. I get a number from NCDC that anybody you are suspicious, you have the symptoms, and the travel history, you can call the number. Yeah. NCDC will send people to take the sample, to do the test. So nationally, no matter where in Nigeria, they have this network. So it's a very impressive action. And also FCTA here, we call them, and the response to us to visit my hospital, come to give us some information and advice. So to see our preparation, how to prevent it to spread in our hospital. Because we are a Chinese hospital, we have Chinese patients that visit our hospital. So immediately we get this news, we go to contact NCDC. to ask what do we need to prepare, and they give us some guide. Yeah. So
Dr. Andy, I love the fact that you and Chukwuemeka have both giving, credit to the federal government, but I personally like to be overprepared than underprepared. I still am emphatic about the fact that I flew back into the country this week and I wasn't checked. I was very surprised because you hear other countries doing that. And I don't think it's an issue of, overflogging a horse. I think it's just basic steps that need to be put in place. I'm happy to hear that there are these call centers that have already been activated, to ensure that, information gathering is in sync all over the nation and also with the WHO. So kudos to the federal government on that. But in taking these next steps, what would you say that we can do as citizens also to ensure that when we see someone, I wouldn't say like point and report, because there are times I've been coughing and I'm like, oh, could it be? But what can citizens do, Dr. Andy, to prevent themselves from possibly contacting this disease?
Okay, this is a very, very important question. For ordinary citizens, you have something very special you need to do. If yourself is coughing, sneezing, it's good you wear mask to prevent you to infect another person. Don't touch things that anyhow. You need to have a washed hand because the virus can go to your hand through coughing, sneezing, and then you are touching other things. So wash hand, wear mask is important. And don't talk with other people too close. Keep 1 meter space. So if you felt another person talking, you may perceive something, then that distance is too close. Keep distance and then wash your hand. And if you have symptoms, wear mask. If you think your symptoms is getting worse, go to see doctor.
Okay, Dr. Chukwuemeka, I read just this morning that in trying to solve this problem globally, there are now cases of the thermometer guns misfiring. And so what happens in the case of misdiagnosis, especially in countries like Nigeria, where on a daily basis you have people with common colds, with coughs, with fever? It's commonplace. It's as good as we find malaria everywhere. How are doctors being prepared to ensure that we're not getting wrong diagnosis? So situations where people may actually be infected and we just pass it off as a common cold or fever, or times where it may not be as bad and then it's escalated.
Well, diagnosis, you have to run proper lab tests, okay? There are things you see that make you suspect that this person may have this. First of all, well, like you said, there could be a history of fever, history of cough, history of difficulty in breathing. Now, these are important, but the most important is a history of travel to an area where, it's that common at this point, or contact with somebody who has just traveled to those areas, okay? If somebody has been to that area within the last 2 weeks, that's important, within 2 weeks, because it said that it's relatively a new illness, so not a lot is known about it for now, but generally it's been established that the incubation period of this illness, that is the time from exposure to development of first symptoms, should be about maximum of 2 weeks. Okay, so if somebody within 2 weeks develops these symptoms, or 2 weeks of having been there, or having been to an area, or having had a contact with somebody we consider a good, reasonable exposure, yes, you begin to suspect that. Of course, if it's longer than 2 weeks, it's unlikely that that illness is still due to the coronavirus. Okay. You get what I'm trying to say? So that is very important. Then when you now suspect that this is probably it, you now call CDC. We talked about the toll-free lines that you can call. Call them, make themselves available as early as possible, take samples and confirm, is this it, or is it still the common cold? Of course, common things will always occur commonly. So not every cough and fever should be considered that, okay? Yeah.
Well, you've heard it here on the weekend show. Wash your hands, stay away from people, don't come close to people when you're talking, especially now with the threat of coronavirus. Ensure that you do contact the relevant agencies and ministries if you do suspect yourself to have been contaminated. We'll take a short break right now. When we return, more on the weekend show. Don't go anywhere.